Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
And away we go here at Sports IQ. Larry Smith, producer Tony, editor Josh. Happy to bring this hour of power to you once again. Just a fan. Boy, you know what? We were talking really going into the football season. As much fun as we had during basketball and during the summer, man, with football, it's just so much fun because we almost don't have enough time to get everything in. But by the time we get the news in and our fantastic guests, and we've got another power lineup for you today. Coming up in a couple of minutes here, Chris Blair joining us once again. He is the voice of the LSU Tigers, undefeated. Remember he talked before and said, hey, down here, we feel like this is the best team that we've had in the Brian Kelly era, and it appears that that's the case. We'll talk with him a bit later on. Cooper Perkins, he's with the Believe podcast for USC. The Trojans coming on now, 4-0 start. They knocked off Michigan State at home Saturday night to go 4-0, and that was the Big Ten opener. They've got a top 25 matchup at Illinois, which is trying to eliminate the taste of that beating that they took, spit the blood out of their mouth after what they suffered in Indiana on Saturday. So we'll talk about the Trojans and their second road trip already this season coming back east to the Midwest. They've already played at Purdue. So we'll talk with him here in a moment. But let's get to our headlines. And listen, there's one headline, obviously, that, the sports world shocked on Monday. Not often that college basketball takes center stage in September. We're still, really 2 months away, 6-7 weeks away from any meaningful games taking place. But on Monday, Bruce Pearl dropping the bombshell, not completely unexpected, but he announced he was stepping away as the head coach of Auburn's basketball team. After an offseason of considering whether to retire, possibly run for U.S. Senate, Pearl came to terms with his decision and made it final on Monday. The 65-year-old Pearl coached at Milwaukee back in 2001 to 2005, at Tennessee from 05 to 11, had to serve at show cause for some recruiting no-nos that he committed with the Vols. But since 2014, he took over Auburn, a program that really did not have much of a basketball history and has led it to its greatest run ever. He leaves having taken the Tigers to the Final Four just last year with a 1 seed, also reached the Final Four back in 2019, the first time ever that had happened in program history. In his career, 706 wins, 268 losses. Due to NCAA penalties, though, his record officially 694 and 270. 477 of those wins at the Division I level. 232 victories at Auburn. That's a school record, as are his 5 conference titles. The other shocker in this, his son Steven was kind of the coach in waiting. There's been some talk over the years if Auburn would make this move by announcing in September, you force him to make a move. That he's not just the interim, he's been named the head coach, and ESPN reporting he got a 5-year contract. So there'll be a Pearl at the helm there in the Plains for a while. Let's see if he can carry the mail. Big news. Okay, NFL Monday Night Football in Baltimore, the Ravens hosting the Lions. And boy, it was Detroit's running game in their front four, rushing for 244 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery each ran for 2 touchdowns. The Lions' front 7 harassing Lamar Jackson all night, sacked him 7 times, and their offensive game plan was so dominant, they had scoring drives of 96 and 98 yards on the night. For the second straight game, the Ravens failed to get Derrick Henry untracked. He ran 12 times for just 50 yards. Take away that one long run of 28 yards. That's 11 carries for 22 yards or 2 yards a carry. Injury news from this past weekend, the Niners announcing that defensive end Nick Bosa has a torn ACL. He'll miss the remainder of the season. The 27-year-old tore that ACL in his left knee in 2020, and now the right knee ACL tear this season. The Chargers without free agent addition Najee Harris for the rest of the season as well. He suffered a torn Achilles tendon in Sunday's win over the Broncos. The Cowboys have ruled CeeDee Lamb already out for this week's matchup with Green Bay. Lamb suffered an ankle injury in Sunday's loss to the Bears. And the Cardinals will be without their main running back, James Conner, after it was revealed that he had a broken foot that he suffered Sunday against the Niners. Connors was coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons when that injury occurred. Joining us now is Chris Blair, voice of the LSU Tigers. Joining us once again. Chris, thanks for coming on. We had you last month. Appreciate you carving out some time for us right now. Big game this weekend. LSU, you're on the road up in Oxford, taking on the 13th ranked Ole Miss Rebels. Game it's on or the ABC, actually, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. I want to go back to our conversation last time. And one of your parting comments was you said, hey, listen, the feeling here, and I agree with it, is that we think this is the best team that Brian Kelly has had in his LSU tenure. And so far, that has played out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, one of the things that really shows you how good this team is over the first 4 weeks, we've seen them have to dip into their depth at a number of position groups, some of that for crazy targeting disqualifications, some of it for injuries, some more difficult than others. But I mean, you look at the matchup against Florida, they lost Whit Weeks, who's a team captain, who's the star linebacker. He goes out not even 2.5 minutes into the game, Larry, due to a targeting call. And then his brother, Wes Weeks, a Georgia native, steps in and plays tremendously. Devon Keys, a guy who really came on last year in his freshman campaign, he also played the majority of the game. He was fantastic. So, I think when you look back at what they've done so far in the first 4 weeks, it hasn't been relying on 1, 2, 3, or 4 guys, really on both sides of the ball. I mean, they've been able to distribute the ball offensively. They've run the football by committee with wide receivers as well as running backs, and even a little bit from Garrett Nussmeier, which is a nice new wrinkle to the offense. But defensively, they're able to plug and play depending on how the game goes. And to me, that speaks volumes of not only how talented this team is, but how deep this team is.
Yeah, and that's big because injuries are going to happen. And that's one thing that, we saw some games this weekend where you get some players go down, all of a sudden you're a different team if you don't have that depth and those guys who can step in and perform on a moment's notice. I do want to go back as well. When last time we talked was right before the season opener. And we talked about again that, LSU always goes out and schedules that, marquee non-conference opponent, right? A Labor Day weekend. And that's great for all of us college football fans, has not been great for LSU, but you come in and get the win. That was just a fantastic. I mean, we love the drama to watch here at home at Clemson. How did that change the momentum of this team in terms of just in the locker room? Instead of starting 0-1, you start 1-0 and you're getting a win on the road against a top 5 team.
Well, I think we all know that when you start a season in any sport, I mean, if you can get off to a good start, that just builds confidence. But when you're an LSU team who had not won an opener since 2019, it becomes the elephant in the room. They addressed it throughout the offseason, which we talked about several weeks ago. But I think that not only did they get that confidence boost that any team would get in that situation, I think for LSU, it really blasted them forward. Because now they could put all that noise behind them. They didn't have to discuss that anymore. And also going on the road, it had been, I think when you look at that game, and we'll see what happens the rest of the season, as there's a very tough schedule coming up, including this weekend at Ole Miss. But I think when you look back at this season, you're going to see that win was even more of a kind of a propelling moment for this team, just simply because it was on the road. It wasn't at a neutral site and it wasn't at home. And I know Clemson has certainly struggled here of late, and maybe that win isn't going to look as good to the rest of the college football world when they take in, at the end of the season, the committee and who's deserving and who is not. But internally for LSU, that win is big no matter what Clemson does the rest of the season for the number of reasons I stated before. So, we've seen this defense get better, more stingy as each week has gone on. I mean, they gave up 30 yards in the first half to, I understand, a Southeastern Louisiana team out of the FCS. But this is a team that didn't even cross the 50 in the first half. I mean, it was sheer dominance. They really, I think broke DJ Lagway in Florida. That's a team that came in after losing to South Florida. They played worse against LSU here at Tiger Stadium with 5 interceptions, including a pick 6. So, I just think that game means a lot more this particular year to this particular team, maybe more so than a regular opening game.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And yeah, the pundits are going to say, I mean, first off, Clemson's going to win games. I mean, they're going to be, we were joking last week that the fans were, growing restless. We're like, people, in the last 14 years, you've had 13 double-digit win seasons. We could bring Illinois has had 5 double-digit win seasons ever. So just chill. You win at Clemson. I don't care when, what year or what time of year. It's a big win. And to your point, the defense. You look through. I don't know how many teams in the country can say that 4 games in they've yet to give up more than 10 points. They've only given up 1 touchdown per game. Yeah, I know that 2 of those were Louisiana Tech and South Louisiana, but still, you played a team that was ranked on the road. You played another team that was ranked before they came to you, and yet you give up 1 touchdown each. That's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really smothering defense. I mean, Blake Baker, I think, is probably, one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. And, he did amazing things when he left LSU as the linebacker coach, took the job with Eli Drinkwitz as the defensive coordinator at Missouri. LSU happened to play that year with Jaden Daniels up there, and they really got after Jaden in the first half. Now, Superman put on his cape in the locker room, and in the second half, Jaden took over. But we all thought, we liked Blake when he was here as a linebackers coach because he's youthful, he's got energy, he loves the competition, and he's got a great defensive mind. But after watching what he did with the Missouri defense in that year there as DC, it was a no-brainer to bring him back. Now, last year, I don't think he had quite the thoroughbreds to run the race he wanted to. His style is his philosophy, I think he would tell you, is against these high-flying offenses that we see that put up 35, 45, and 50 points a game. You don't want to be reactionary to that. The only way to try to counter that is to be disruptive, and that takes an aggressive style. And if you're not very good in all 3 levels of your defense, just simply sending a blitz every time is going to expose you. And at times, that's what happened last year. Dual threat running quarterbacks were able to break, contain, and get big plays. There were times where there were busted coverages. And again, all the rush in the world is not going to help you if you don't have anybody covering. So this defense is very good at all 3 levels. I mean, it has elite linebacker play, as I said, with Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins Jr., who is a one-man wrecking crew. The defensive front has been very active, allowing those linebackers to pick and choose when they come after the football. And then I think the biggest improvement is the back end of this defense. Corey Raymond, who left LSU when Coach Kelly arrived, went to Florida. That didn't work out. He's available. They bring Corey back. He is the architect of DBU here at LSU. And really in one season, it's amazing. Thanks to the portal gets with Mansour Delane, A.J. Halsey, Tamarcus Cooley. They were able to bring these guys in, and suddenly they're able to sit down on receivers. And you've got great complementary defensive football where you've got pressure that is really disrupting things in the run game, as well as getting quarterbacks out of the pocket, forcing them into tight pockets. But they can do that now because they know there's nobody open downfield. They got after Lagway, as I mentioned, against Florida. All 5 interceptions, Larry, came on 4-man rush. But it was because of the other blitz packages at different times that had him sped up a little bit. But if you go back and look, the 5 interceptions all came with just a simple 4-man rush. But because the threat of Harold Perkins is there, every pre-snap, it starts, the quarterback has to start thinking, and where is he coming from? And if it's not Harold, if he's dropping back in coverage, where is the pressure coming from? So I think Blake Baker's done a masterful job, but kudos to the guys because they're out there executing at a very high level.
Talking with Chris Blair, again, voice of the LSU Tigers, getting ready to go on the road and take on number 13 Ole Miss this week. The Rebels coming in undefeated as well. So far, 2-0 in conference, but they've got a new quarterback in play. So we get a chance to kind of, like you said, draw up some things defensively to see if you can confuse this young man. And you cause Cade Klubnik some problems in week 1, obviously Lagway in week 3, and now here comes Ole Miss and a new quarterback and a chance, I think, really to establish a dominance. Right now, there isn't a dominant team in the SEC right now. LSU, it appears, could be that team.
Yeah, I liken this matchup this weekend to kind of the early Georgia-Tennessee game, because I think both of those teams, both of those fan bases, for good reason, thought they would be the team that would take the step forward, because I do think there's a lot more parity this season, maybe in quite a while in the SEC. So Georgia gets that win on the road in Knoxville. So suddenly now, over the last 2 weeks, Georgia's the team to beat, and rightfully so, based on that win. I think this is kind of similar in the sense that which team is going to make that step forward, Ole Miss or LSU. In fact, both teams 4-0, and this is incredible. These two teams have played 110 times going back to 1894, Larry. But this is the first time since 1962 that this meeting takes place with both teams undefeated. In fact, if you go to 1958, these two teams were unbeaten. LSU had a tie on their record earlier in the season, but that's the big Billy Cannon Halloween punt return, kick return for a touchdown. LSU went on to win the game. So, that's how big this game is for both LSU and Ole Miss. I mean, to be both 4-0 going into this is important, but I think the team that comes out of there, out of Vaught-Hemingway on Saturday with a W on their resume, I think, right or wrong, that will be the team that people will, okay, now the winner of this game we think will be the other team to beat in the SEC. Now, there's a number of games coming up over the next several weeks that have that same thing with other teams. But I think where we are here going into week 5, I would liken it to the stakes that were at play in the Georgia-Tennessee game. And the winner here gets a massive leg up. Because everybody else has very difficult games remaining. But if you can get that win on the road, we say it in basketball all the time, you got to steal some on the road. In football, we don't use that term as much, but I think in this instance, LSU needs to steal this one on the road. And look, the last 2 games have come down to who had the ball in their hand last. I mean, it came down to the final play. LSU got the win with the walk-off touchdown last year. Ole Miss won last time at Vaught-Hemingway in the final minutes of that game. So I don't expect anything different. The good news is LSU, I think, exorcised some of their offensive demons, albeit against Southeastern Louisiana. But one thing I think is notable is that Garrett Nussmeier kind of injured his oblique in fall camp. It got a little bit better. Then as the season started, it started to give him a little more discomfort. And he just didn't look like himself. I mean, he was missing throws that he could make with his eyes closed or in his sleep most of the time. Last week, we were told he feels good, no discomfort, and he looked like it. I mean, he was putting the football right between the numbers all night long en route to, a 500-yard performance for the offense. So it was a good time to get right. They needed to get right because Ole Miss averages about 45 points a game. So I think the defense can bring that down a little bit, but you're still going to have to score on the road. So I think LSU's feeling confident about what they were able to accomplish.
You bring up your quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier. That was my next question, really, is that, he's had that injury, hasn't played his best football, but like you said, showed some improvements last week, healthy now. If he can find that next gear, what's the ceiling for this LSU team?
Well, I think the next step is really, he completed 81% of his passes last week. And that's kind of what we're accustomed to. He had dropped down to like the mid to low 60s on the season, which is not Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, last year they put 5,600 yards total offense, 47 touchdowns, and averaged 31 points a game. And frankly, through the first 4 weeks, even with a great defense, they weren't sniffing that. I mean, you think about the Florida game, and Florida's defense, I think, is the strong part of their team, as evidenced by the way they kind of controlled Miami for most of that game. But LSU got 5 turnovers and scored 20 points. That's not what we've been accustomed to here over the last 3 seasons. So I think what Garrett feeling healthy will do is be able to get back to some of those vertical shots for 2 reasons. One, he's got a ton of speedsters on the outside with Aaron Anderson, Barryon Brown, Nick Anderson, Chris Hilton Jr., so you can take the lid off of a defense. Not only can you hit some big plays, and LSU expects to do that, Larry, it also loosens up a defense, which may help LSU run the ball a little bit better than they have, because right now they've struggled to do that. And I think some of that is because they're kind of keeping everything offensively in front of the opposing defense. So I think that's the big step. With a healthy Garrett Nussmeier, suddenly now there's another addition to the playbook. And frankly, Coach Kelly told me last week that with that soreness, I mean, just think about it. We've all been in the backyard tossing a football. If you've got a torso or oblique injury, just the simple movement of throwing a football is going to give you discomfort, not to mention trying to get out of the way of a 300-pound lineman coming for you, or when you get hit. So it took away some of the things they could do offensively due to that injury. So I think that opens up the playbook, and it comes at a good time, because this is the gauntlet of the SEC mean, you've got Ole Miss, you've got South Carolina coming to you. You've got to go visit a red-hot Vanderbilt team, Alabama waiting in the distance. I know Alabama and Oklahoma, both on the road. So, yeah, offense coming around better now than never.
Yeah, because you're right. It's here. The fun time for us is here, not for them. Hey, Chris, always great to get your insights. We appreciate your time as always. We'll be waiting on your call. Excellent call here this weekend, and hopefully we can talk again as the season progresses.
You let me know, Larry. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, brother. Thanks so much. Chris Blair, once again, he's the voice of the LSU Tigers. And again, it is LSU at number 13 Ole Miss, 3:30 Eastern time kick. It's on ABC. We've got more to come here. A little USC talk. Cooper Perkins come up in just a bit. But we'll get to WNBA and some baseball news as well. Next, here on the Sports IQ.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome back here to the show. Monday through Friday, we are here, by the way, 1 hour. We appreciate everyone stopping in. We appreciate the comments. Radio stations that we're growing all the time. Georgia, Illinois just added Lincoln, Nebraska last week. Excited to have you guys on board. And, of course, we're on a podcast as well. Spotify, Apple, wherever you find your podcast. YouTube channel, check that out. We got a lot happening right here at Sports IQ. Trying to get you smarter. Not because of me, but because of great guests like Chris, like Cooper, and producer Tony. I'm just the traffic cop here. Hey, WNBA, the semifinals are underway. No action last night, but they resumed tonight. 2 games. Phoenix at Minnesota at 7:30 tip. And then Indiana trying to go 2-0 on the road against the Aces. How about the Aces? They had 3 losses the second half of the season, already 2 losses here in the playoffs in 4 games. Fever with a surprise in game 1. Aces try to equal it tonight, 9:30 tip, both those games again on ESPN, and they'll switch and they'll resume play on Friday. One off-the-court piece of news that's significant, Seattle announcing that long-term coach Noelle Quinn's contract will not be renewed. Quinn helping the Storm win the WNBA title back in 2018 as a player, and in 4+ seasons at the helm in Seattle, 97 and 89, led the team to the playoffs 4 times, but the Storm just 4-8 in the postseason under Quinn, won only 1 playoff series, missed the playoffs completely in 2023, but came back the last 2 years, but were eliminated in the first round in each of the last 2 seasons. So when you look at the WNBA, 15 teams on the court next year. You're adding Toronto and Portland. 11 of those coaches will have been in place less than 2 years. You know, they had 8 new coaches this season out of 13. Only 5 were incumbent. Quinn was one of those. Well, now that's down to 4. And so we'll see what happens moving forward. But again, lots of change in the WNBA and a change coming in Seattle. Hey, a light night on the diamond in the final week here of the regular season. Only 3 games were played. Freddie Furman singling in automatic runner Bryce Johnson with 1 out in the 11th as the Padres beat 3-time NL Central champion Milwaukee 5-4 to clinch their 4th playoff berth in 6 seasons. Furman, acquired from Kansas City at the trade deadline back on July 31st, drove the first pitch he saw from Grant Anderson to center field, and that set up a wild celebration in front of a sellout crowd there at Petco Park. The Cardinals put a dent in the Giants' playoffs hopes. Ivan Herrera hitting a tying 2-run homer in the decisive 5th inning before St. Louis scored the go-ahead run on second baseman Casey Schmidt's error for San Francisco. Jordan Walker added an RBI ground out. The Cardinals get past the Giants 6-5. The Giants trail the Reds for the last playoff spot by 3 games and have 3 other teams in front of them also chasing the Reds. One note from the world of college football. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips, this is big, announcing on Monday that the conference's athletic directors voted, quote, overwhelmingly to adopt a new future football schedule that will require teams to play a minimum of 10 Power 4 opponents each season, including their 9 conference games. That means that starting next season, in 2026, all 4 Power 4 conferences will be playing 9-game conference schedules and have to have at least 1 non-conference game against another Power 4 school. You know, we talked all summer long about the Big Ten and the SEC, and that was one of the big issues with the Big Ten moving forward with an expanded playoff format going from 12 teams to 14, or we all believe it'll eventually be 16 teams, was in terms of the inequity of schedules. The Big Ten has played 9-team conference slates forever since they began expanding. The SEC did not. They came on board a few weeks ago, and now the ACC does as well. So it feels like that all the stars are aligned to move forward now and, work on a conference, a new college football playoff schedule starting in 2026. And again, does it go to 14? Goes to 16? We will see what happens. It feels like, I don't know. I mean, it's just, I'm not in the committee. I'm not in the room. I'm not a decision maker. But if you go into 14, why not just go to 16? I mean, I don't know. It's just me. Unless you want to just add some buys for the first two teams. I don't know. I don't make those decisions. But bottom line, there it is. The ACC joining the Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12. And so we can move forward with that. We move forward as well with more college football. Cooper Perkins from USC talking Trojans in Illinois. Up next.
If you're a diabetic, we have great news. You can end the painful finger sticks with a new CGM. Plus, they may be covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. If you test and inject daily, you may qualify. Call US Med now to learn more.
800-390-5160. 800-390-5160. 800-390-5160. That's 800-390-5160.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Back to college football now. We were talking about some of the big matchups here this weekend, and a really intriguing one in the Big Ten. USC coming in 4-0. They did, as I mentioned earlier, they got their win in their Big Ten opener at home against Michigan State. They were at an Illinois team that just got, it was almost like a Rocky IV moment, like, the traitor, throw in the damn towel. I mean, 63-10. In fact, I think Indiana just scored again. In fact, it just was one of those that if you're watching, you go to the restroom and get some popcorn and come back and they scored again. Anyway, it is USC at Illinois, both in the top 25. Cooper Perkins, friend of the show, USC insider, joining us once again. Cooper, I know you were already there at the Coliseum getting ready for your game that came later, 8 o'clock local time start there, Pacific time. But knowing you guys played Illinois next, did you see what was happening in Bloomington? Did you have your one eye on the scoreboard with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They actually were playing the game on the Jumbotron in the stadium during warmups. And it was a pretty stunning thing to watch happen. I don't know that I think that that's a good thing if you're looking at it from a USC fandom's vantage point, but it was certainly interesting to say the very least.
Yeah, I guess Illinois had a lot of defensive backs. I was reading that went injured, and they were down like their third string, even fourth string guys at one point. They're all Big Ten guys. Xavier Scott, so yesterday he's having surgery, could be out for the year, so that does help USC. But enough on Illinois. Let's talk USC. 4-0 start right now. Look, it got to be some good feelings. I thought it was a good win over the Spartans on Saturday as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because right now, and I don't think this is unreasonable or unfair, there's still this national sentiment of not trusting USC. And they haven't been trustworthy for the last 2-3 years. And so I think one thing that I would offer a casual audience is that this is not the same program because structurally it's completely different than it's been the last 3 years. And what I mean by that is the offseason between last season and this season, they went out and hired Notre Dame's general manager, Chad Bowden. And in doing so, it completely changed the organizational structure of the program. It changed responsibilities. And what that all adds up to is that Lincoln Riley is basically an offensive coordinator who has decision-making power over everything else. He's not worried about personnel. He's not worried about recruiting. He's not even really that worried about the defense. He's worried about the offense. What that all has added up to is a really revitalized look at who this coach was in his Oklahoma days. And so I would encourage you to not look at USC's past couple of seasons and say, I mean, look, they lost to Minnesota and Minneapolis, they lost to Maryland, like it's a different group. It's a very different program. And it's a good illustration of just how much college football has changed and how investing in the right areas can actually change a program very significantly, very quickly.
I do want to make one correction. I said that Michigan State was the Big Ten opener. Obviously, you already went to Purdue and got that win, 33-17. So one of those rare, usually the Big Ten teams will play all three non-conference and then get into the conference slate. USC hasn't done that. That's interesting you say that because I have seen last week in a couple of publications where there were a couple of the experts kind of looking ahead, and they kind of have USC in there as the fourth Big Ten team getting into the playoff. And to your point, I think that's some respect that we haven't seen in the past year or so out of this, as it seems Lincoln Riley's kind of fallen out of favor. But like you said, it's a new era right now in Trojan football.
Yeah, that's entirely true. And, when you consider USC in the context of the playoffs, right, you're talking about, can a team go 10-2 is more or less what you're saying. Yeah. I think we're going to know a lot more about that after this week. But, so much is made of the defense, and USC's defense hasn't been very good since Lincoln Riley got there. At times it's been atrocious. What we often forget, though, is that the defense doesn't have to be good. The defense has to be average because they're going to score 40 plus points per game. So if you give up 28, kind of doesn't matter. You're winning by 2 touchdowns anyway. So you got to reframe how you consider things. Do they give up yards? Yes. Do they have, are they prone to coverage busts once to twice a game? Yes, absolutely. Does that matter in the context of what their offense is capable of? To this point, no, it hasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, scoring 33 at Purdue, 45 last week, that wasn't an issue at all. As you go through again, you talk about the schedule, not only this week, but then in you get the bye week next week, and then Michigan comes in to LA for that, currently number 19. We should say USC 21, Illinois 23 right now. You go out of conference, get the Notre Dame game, Oregon later on. The schedule does match up that if USC does go 10-2, if they can, they're almost a lock for the playoffs with that schedule.
Yeah, you'd have to think so. And I mean, if you're looking at the schedule on paper, you're thinking probably losses to Notre Dame and Oregon. Notre Dame obviously has lost 2 close games. I think they're vastly better than what a 1-2 record would suggest. Mm-hmm. That's also a really tough place that USC has not won in 13 years. So I think that when you look at games like this Illinois game, you look at it as this is a game they have to win in order to keep that potential 10-2 in play. I mean, maybe you steal one from a Notre Dame or an Oregon, but that's not something you operate as your expectation. If that happens, then great. So they need to take care of business in these Illinois, Michigan, Nebraska, Iowa type games where the opponent is formidable and it is very losable. But they have to like their chances to win those games, especially if their ultimate goal is to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Talking with Cooper Perkins, once again, USC insider. Trojans about to take on Illinois this weekend. It's the Fox game, by the way, high noon Eastern time. Lincoln Riley, known for his work with quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, obviously Caleb Williams now is with the Bears. What's the quarterback play been like this year for USC?
It's shockingly good. That was one of 2 areas of major concern and question mark entering this season. The quarterback play and the offensive line play, and both of them have vastly exceeded expectations. And it's interesting because Jaden Mayava last year played 4 games as the starter, taken over late in the season, in what ended up being an actually pretty difficult stretch of the schedule, and went 3-1, threw for a ton of yards, threw a ton of touchdowns, and also threw a ton of picks. So I think that the concern was his development from a football playing standpoint was still leaving a lot to be desired, despite the fact that the physical tools were very clearly there. Mm-hmm. What we've seen to this point in the season is that he's taken a series of very big steps forward. Now, that doesn't mean he's a quarterback who's going to sit in the pocket, throw it 45 times a game and beat you. That's not what this team is built on. This team is built on its offensive line. It is a young offensive line. It is an entirely homegrown offensive line without a single transfer who starts on it. It is a group that is athletic and capable of pulling the guards and the tackles on any given play. And they're what this offense has really been built around, because the running game looks a lot more like the Oklahoma days of Lincoln Riley. And that running game that's counter heavy, very aggressive, and very dynamic in its scheme really sets up a play action passing game that protects the quarterback well. So this all adds up to a little bit of a question point where the quarterback play has been very good. The quarterback play also has been perfectly in the context of what the offense wants it to be. There hasn't been an opponent yet who's able to force that quarterback into a situation where he has to beat an opponent. So I'm not sure that he's that guy. He had great moments at times last season, almost beat Notre Dame by himself, did beat Texas A&M in a 3-score comeback in the fourth quarter. So, the talent and the ability is there, but so far the story of the season has been the ability of the offense to protect the quarterback from vulnerable positions by both keeping him vertical and also by having a productive and consistent running game that takes all the pressure off and puts the pressure on the defense. So it's an interesting question, because I think we're waiting for that time bomb to go off where eventually there will be a turnover or 2 or 3. When does that come? What does the consequence look like? And what does the fallout look like? Where does one turnover become 3, or does one turnover just become a speed bump? So I think that there is cautious optimism about the positions played at this point, but I don't think that most people in the USC sphere are entirely convinced that, okay, this guy's leading the nation in quarterback rating right now. This is who he is. It's never as good as it looks. It's never as bad as it looks. And I'm pretty sure it's not as good as it looks, but it may still be very good. We'll see.
Remember last year he replaced Miller Moss, late in the season. Like you said, got those 4 starts. How big was that experience? They had those 4 games last year, getting into this year. Like you said, taking that quantum leap forward now and possibly being on the cusp of realizing what he can be with USC.
It's an interesting question, because I think the primary value to that is that he went through an off season as the ordained starter for the first time in his college career. Prior to this year, he'd been in a legitimate competition each season going back to his UNLV days. So I think from a confidence standpoint and the ability to build relationships and take control of the team probably is the biggest component. From a playing confidence standpoint, I'm not sure how much of an impact it made, because this is a guy who was a starter previously, albeit at the group of 5 level at UNLV. But he's not inexperienced. He was just kind of uncoached. So I think that the offseason of being the undisputed number 1 guy probably liberated him a little bit to focus on his personal growth, as opposed to looking around him and seeing, how am I comparing to this guy or that guy? It's a good question. And honestly, I don't think I have an answer to you. But my suspicion is that just having that comfort level of being able to operate as the starting quarterback for a full off season and what that entails, right? And being the guy who takes the offensive line out for dinner, and being the guy who's calling his wide receivers to get to know them better, and learning about their kid or their parents or whatever it may be. I think it means more from a relationship and personality standpoint than it does from an on the field play standpoint. But I'd be curious to ask him, to be honest with you, because playing games in the Coliseum and playing games, against SEC teams like Texas A&M is a whole hell of a lot different than playing at UNLV. So it very well may have been an important piece to him playing on the field.
Yeah, no, that's fair. We mentioned again USC at Illinois. It's the second trip in 3 weeks going back to the Midwest. You just went to Purdue. Have you talked to folks there and with the program in terms of what that does and just the body clock? I mean, we knew when this expansion happened in the Big Ten and adding, these teams, this was going to be an issue. It really seems the schedule makers, okay, yeah, at some point, West Coast teams have to go east. A couple times a year it's going to happen, but almost back to back. This seems a little much.
The body clock giveth and the body clock taketh away, right? This past week, you're at home playing Michigan State at an 11 p.m. Eastern kick. Yeah. And then this week, you're going to Illinois for a 9 a.m. Pacific time kick. There's an advantage one week. There's a disadvantage the next. I don't know that I care for any of it. But, I think it's a great thing, actually, that they've got 2 East Coast trips or Eastern swings, because, West Lafayette, not really East Coast, barely in the Eastern time zone. But that was a huge win for this team because it's like life, right? The universe repeatedly gives you tests of the same variety until you rise to the occasion. And that's how the football gods operate, right? And last year, USC played 9 one-score games, which is the most in the country. They went 4-5 in those one-score games, and they had fourth quarter leads in 8 of them. They didn't win games consistently when they were close, and they struggled on the road specifically. They didn't win a true road game last year. The only road quote unquote game they won was in Las Vegas against LSU. So going to Purdue, who was probably the best opponent for them to have on that first, Big Ten weekend, and winning on the road, I think, especially with some weird circumstances of a 3.5-hour delay, a tremendous amount of familiarity on the other side, where Barry Odom was Jaden Mayava's head coach at UNLV. Josh Henson, the offensive coordinator for Purdue, was previously offensive line coach last year at USC. I mean, that was kind of a sticky, sneaky game. And to be able to come through all of those aspects with a 16-point win, I think is massive for the team's confidence and its ability to go east and win. And so I look at, maybe you don't want to do it twice in 3 weeks, but I think it's a great thing that they've already done it and they've been able to have success doing it, because now you have another game where the circumstances aren't perfect, in the same way that Purdue is a 3.5-hour lightning delay. Well, now you get to kick off at 9 a.m. Pacific time, which means game day stuff starts at 3 a.m. So I think that this team is kind of picking up comfortably sized experiences in different places that can be metastasized into a larger experience that strengthens the unit. So I think they're better for having gone to Purdue 2 weeks ago than, this being the first time they're going east. And the Big Ten is the Big Ten. We signed up for it. We blew up the Pac-12 so we could have the Eastern swings. I think that everyone has to just smile and engage with it in whatever funky, ridiculous world we live in, where Rutgers and USC are in the same conference.
Right.
You love it for what it is and laugh at the silliness.
Right. Exactly. Well, Cooper, leave it there. Enjoy the trip if you're making it and out there. And again, set the alarm early.
Oh, yeah.
Great start for USC. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much.
All right, appreciate it. Cooper Perkins, once again, a USC insider. The Trojans, number 21 in the country, at number 23, Illinois. Noon Eastern kickoff on Fox. But if you're out west, it's your early wake up. But like you said, it's a sign of the times. It's the way it is. All right, we've got more to come. Sports IQ right here.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. That's 800-507-7293.
Okay, another week in the NFL now in the books. Producer Tony joining us. And coming off that game last night, the Ravens had their chance at home, didn't get it done. And now all of a sudden, they're 1-2. Didn't think that would be happening here 3 weeks into the season, but here we are.
Yeah, the schedule maker definitely did not do the Ravens any favors. You figure their first 4 games include the Bills won 14 games last year. The Lions won 15 games last year. And now this coming Sunday, the Chiefs, who just won 15 games also last year.
Wow.
Talk about brutal way to start your season. So now you're looking at the Chiefs and the Ravens this weekend, pair 1 and 2 teams, almost a must-win game for both teams.
Yeah.
And you know what, Larry? I'm starting to wonder, how they say running backs have a limited shelf life? Derrick Henry's been in the league 10 years now.
Yeah.
He's got over 2,400 carries in the NFL.
Yeah.
It seems to me other than that opening game against the Bills where he had a couple of big runs, he really it looks to me like he's slowing down a little bit. I don't want to say his career's over, nothing like that. But Derrick Henry's a big part of that offense. The last two games, even though they won 2 weeks ago, they couldn't get him going last night except for one run. But he's averaging those last 2 weeks. Yeah, his current season average is 5.9 yards a carry. Take away the Bills game, he's averaging less than 3 yards a carry.
Wow.
That's not good.
When you think about it, all those big runs were the first three quarters against Buffalo. Remember, he had the big fumble late in the game that allowed the Bills to go down and score. I guess that would have been the tying touchdown, I think. Maybe psychologically, but you could argue if you go back and look and to your point, since that fumble, he has not been the same.
Yeah, exactly. And again, how many hits can one guy take? Yeah, he's a big man. He's in shape. He is sculpted, all of that. At some point, Father Time starts knocking on the door going, hello, it's me. I'm coming for the past due rent.
Yeah. We are going to pay the piper at some point, right? So,
Exactly.
Yeah. You've got a point. I mean, it's one of those things that, and because he's a big guy, he's not shifty. He's taking those hits, like an Earl Campbell. He's not a Barry Sanders, Walter Payton dancing around. I mean, he's a big boy taking a lot of hits because he dishes out punishment as well. So you've got a good point. Jerry Jones, meanwhile, you were saying before the show that he's delusional. Do tell.
Look, Jerry Jones is putting out stuff after this past weekend's game going, this is still a playoff team. I'm not sure what league he thinks he's competing in. They might be a playoff team in the Big 12, but in the NFL, I mean, their defense, they couldn't stop the Giants at all.
Yeah.
The Bears just put 34 on you. The Eagles handled you in week 1. You were able to eke by the Giants thanks to a kicker who can hit them from 70 yards.
Yeah.
Is really the only reason you won that game. And you still think you're a playoff team. I'm not sure what Cowboys team he's watching, but I'm not seeing it. This team has a lot of holes. They got a lot of holes on that defense, especially in the front seven now that Micah Parsons isn't there. This is not a playoff team. This is not a playoff caliber roster to me at all.
Yeah. You're giving up, a lot of points, like you said, and watching, me, I'm a Bear guy, and I'm a Bears fan who doesn't watch the Bears because, they just gave up 52 points to Detroit the week before. And yet that offense flowed. There are all kinds of holes. I mean, Caleb Williams like a seasoned veteran out there at quarterback, just, hitting guys on the run and leaving the pocket. And so, yeah, you've got a good point there. On the other side of the coin, maybe the best story in the league 3 weeks in are the Colts in Indianapolis. They look fantastic. They finally punted the ball once? I mean, not in the first quarter of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you go through 3 games, and if you just said, pick a team that would only have to punt once in the first 3 weeks of the regular season, Indianapolis would have been so far down the list. I mean, I'm talking 28, 29, maybe 30th, probably down there based on the last couple of years. Yeah. But their offense has just been so smooth. They're running, they're passing. Daniel Jones is not making any mistakes. Yeah. I'm sure there's a bunch of folks up in New York are going, dude, where were you the last 4 years?
Right.
Come on, help us out a little bit, And so now he's at the point where it's like, okay, he is what he is, but he's not making mistakes. Running back is doing a great job, Taylor. They're just a machine right now. And I think it'd be a great story to see Indianapolis back among the leaders of the AFC.
Yeah, we thought Daniel Jones was going to go the way of Carson Wentz, right? Just become a backup and bounce around, and all of a sudden, like you said, he's the darling, and Anthony Richardson's agent can just go pound sand because it is what it is. I mean, if you win, you ain't going anywhere. So
you win, you're not turning the ball over. Your offense is clicking. Look, sorry, but, Anthony Richardson, Riley Leonard, sit down, get a clipboard.
Yep.
Unless he gets hurt, you ain't seeing the field this year.
Exactly. Yeah, no question about that. All right, NFL. We get ready now for week 4 this weekend. Our moment of all is up next.
Packages start at $29.99 a month with signed agreement. Restrictions apply. Speak to a representative for complete offer details. See Vivint.com for license details. Terms and conditions apply.
Homeowners, if you're looking for the best in home security and smart home technology at a price you can actually afford, we have great news. Now you can get Vivint's award-winning home security systems starting at about $1 a day. U.S. News & World Report has recognized Vivint as the best professionally installed home security system of 2022. And right now, you can get Vivint's home security technology for about $1 a day. Plus, get free professional installation from a licensed technician. Protect your home and loved ones for as low as $1 a day. Call right now for your free home security consultation.
800-613-8053. 800-613-8053. 800-613-8053. That's 800-613-8053.
Time now for a moment of awe. And this is a current events moment of awe as happening just today. The New York Liberty, WNBA reigning defending champions. Of course, they lost in round one to Phoenix. They have parted ways with head coach Sandy Brondello. She will not be back in 2026. This is shocking. 4-year run there for Brondello, 107 regular season wins, 16 playoff victories. Both of those are franchise records. And of course, the team's first ever league championship coming last year as they beat Minnesota in a thrilling 5-game series. So Brondello, she's 57 years old, won titles in Phoenix and now in New York. She'll continue as the Australian National Olympic team coach. She's from Australia, but the shocking news, this is a moment of awe. Sandy Brondello, a year after winning the championship with the New York Liberty, she is out as head coach. So the whole thing of talking about coaches coming back, you're now down to 3 coaches in the WNBA who were head coaches of that team in 2024 and still head coach of the same team in 2026. As producer Tony said in the break, you're truly now a league when you could win a title and fire your coach next. You're now big time, baby. There's no question. All right. We appreciate our guests coming by. Chris Blair and also Cooper Perkins. Thanks to you as always. It's a Sports IQ. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.